They had to pull away here, and they get a big play. St. Brown all day. So much green. And you are not denying him here. All day. The Lions are rounding into form, but will have to move on without their star pass rusher, while the Vikings are the surprise of the NFC, looking to establish themselves as kings of the North. Welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Johnny Gaz. Thank you for returning for another video. The Lions head to Minnesota to face the Vikings in Week 7 in an early NFC North battle. This will be Sunday, October 20th, kickoff at 1 p.m. on Fox. Let's go through my full game preview. We'll start with the headlines and storylines. We'll talk about our key matchups and the X factors. I'll give you my differences in the game, and at the end, I'll give my final score and prediction, so stick around. Let's go! Before we talk about this exciting matchup, make sure to hit that like button. It's the best free way to help out the channel. I'd love it if you consider subscribing. We're just over 2,100 subscribers thanks to you guys. And if you hit the notify bell, it's the best way to make sure you don't miss future videos. There's a membership option available. I do my live game play-by-play reactions, our tier list, and a ton of other fun content, but there is always free stuff for you here all the time. Make sure to comment down below. Who do you have in this matchup? Lions, Vikings, early NFC North supremacy. Who do you have here coming out on top? Definitely let me know. Let's get into this fun matchup. Let's kick Week 7 off with the headlines and storylines, starting on the Lions side of things, and we have to start with the unfortunate injury to Aiden Hutchinson, who did come off the successful surgery to repair his left tibia and fibula. He is now on injured reserve and is expected the next 4 to 6 months of recovery. We will monitor that through the rest of the regular season. In response, the Lions did make a few moves this week, the biggest one being the extension to defensive interior lineman Ali McNeil, who earned a 4-year extension worth $97 million. And I think this was a deal the Lions were going to make at the end of the season regardless, but doing so here in the middle of the season in response to this Aiden Hutchinson injury, I believe is a great way to incentivize the player and other teammates there for the Lions. Another injury coming out of that Dallas game that kind of got overshadowed by the Hutch injury was the pectoral tear to defensive lineman Kyle Pecco, who is now also placed on season-ending injured reserve, so the Lions will really have to do some shuffling along the defensive line. Some other injuries of note as we head into Week 7 for the Lions. They have listed Carlton Davis as questionable. He did not practice Wednesday and Thursday this week due to a quad injury, and we will monitor that as we get closer to Sunday. They also have Kevin Zeitler listed as limited practice here on Thursday for a groin issue. However, I do expect him to play in this Week 7 matchup. The Lions are entering this NFC North battle with the Vikings riding high on their offense. They really exploded here over the last several weeks. Monday Night Football, they then had the bye week and were able to just completely control the game against the Cowboys and ran them off that field there in Jerry World. The question is, how can this defense move forward without Aiden Hutchinson? We'll get into that in some detail. And on the Vikings side, let's start with the injuries. A couple players that did not practice later in the week here. Linebacker Blake Cashman as well as cornerback Caleb Evans both appear to be out for this Week 7 matchup. Other injuries to monitor, I think the biggest one for the Vikings is Aaron Jones, who is coming into this matchup with a hamstring injury stemming from the matchup just prior to the bye week for the Vikings. He is a huge part of their offense, both rushing and passing, so we'll have to see what his status will be as we get towards Sunday. Limited practice as well for defensive tackle Harrison Phillips. Tight end TJ Hawkinson, who has been out for several weeks now. He is still questionable for this matchup against the Lions. He was limited practice as well. And guard Dalton Risner, who had a back injury, again was limited practice, but appears he will play against the Lions. The Vikings enter this Week 7 matchup as one of only 2 teams left undefeated in all of the NFL, along with the Kansas City Chiefs. Quarterback Sam Darnold is playing the best football of his entire career, but the Vikings team is led by their Brian Flores defense, who currently have them ranked first in both pass and rush DVOA. It will be a huge test for the Detroit Lions. And just a few quick news and notes surrounding the NFC North before we dive into this Week 7 matchup. This division is clearly the best in football. It's the first time since the 1970 AFL-NFL merger that all teams within the division have 4 or more wins through 6 weeks. On top of that, all 4 teams of the NFC North lead the NFL in point differential. What a fantastic division. I cannot believe they didn't move this 1 p.m. kickoff to later in the day. All of these NFC North matchups should truly be in prime time. I'm really looking forward to Lions and Vikings. Now let's get into what I believe will be the key matchups here in Week 7, Lions versus Vikings. I think one of the key matchups will be the Lions secondary versus this Vikings pass offense. And I think this is really where you'll see the loss of Hutchinson work against the Lions. They're going to have a fall off clearly in pressure rate and sacks. That will cause the Lions secondary to have to cover longer. Sam Darnold should have more time in the pocket to be able to make plays to their big-time wide receivers, and that's really where the Lions have struggled. They cannot cover elite wide receivers. At least they're working towards that. They did a little bit better against CeeDee Lamb here last week, but you're probably facing the best wide receiver in football, very dangerous Justin Jefferson. We'll see if the Lions can hold up. And perhaps the biggest key matchup in Lions-Vikings is the Vikings run defense versus this Lions rushing attack. We know the potency of the Lions, Sonic and Knuckles, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, and the dominant offensive line that they're able to establish run games early and often. Well, the Vikings defense is number 1 against the rush this season. How about this for a stat? Minnesota on 50.5% of snaps are able to make contact behind the line of scrimmage, and they've only given up 15 yards prior to contact all season long to other teams' rushing attacks. David Montgomery averages 4.7 yards per carry, and Gibbs averages 5.3 yards per carry. So something is going to have to give in this Week 7 matchup. And my third key matchup, and it kind of ties into the run game, but it's more in an overall picture, is the Lions offensive line against this Vikings front seven, who will be the most formidable group they have faced all year long. Minnesota is tied for third in sacks with 20 and leads the league in pressures with 84. So this Lions offensive line will truly be tested like they haven't before here in 2024. Vikings like to disguise their blitzing. They like to show coverage and back away from it. They really want the offense to take that one extra second to think about it so the defense can then make a play, and that's really been playing out here this season for the Vikings. We know the difference between a clean Jared Goff versus a dirty Jared Goff, and how more effective and efficient he is when this offensive line can protect him. Really, that's the ultimate key matchup. If the Lions are able to get that protection, then ultimately I think they win this matchup. But if they are able to get to Jared Goff, create pressure, get him off of his stance, that's when things start to happen a little differently. There are so many dimensions to this Lions offense. Can the Vikings defense limit the amount of dimensions that they're able to present here in Week 7? And now the X factors are those players that I think will make the ultimate difference in Lions versus Vikings. Let's start on the ground with the Lions offense and go with David Montgomery, who has been special so far for 2024. It's like the new contract has invigorated his spirit and strength, and he is running with a passion this year. He has 75 rushes for 351 yards and 6 TDs on the season, and he's really been a missed tackle machine. He had 10 forced missed tackles against the Cowboys last week. And for the Vikings, we hit on it in one of our key matchups, and I think it ultimately will be an X factor in any game between Lions and Vikings, is Justin Jefferson, who is potentially the best wide receiver in football, but really plays well against the Lions. Over his career, he has 62 receptions, 1,073 yards, and 3 career touchdowns versus the Lions, 134 yards average receiving in these matchups. However, they have lost the last 3 against the Lions, even with these heightened statistics. And we have to throw the quarterback Jared Goff into this mix. He has been nearly perfect the last several weeks. Over his past 3 games, he is 54 of 66, 7 touchdowns to 1 interception, and has a 269-yard average. He has really been fantastic these several weeks. The Vikings will have to pressure him to try and get him off his kilter and change this fantastic Goff. I'm also going to throw the tight end Sam Laporta into the mix for the Lions. The Vikings have had difficulty covering tight ends. How fantastic their defense has been up front, and in their secondary, it seems like in the middle of the field is where there is some opportunity, and the Lions are able to thrive there with players like Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I think in this matchup, even more important will be that tight end Sam Laporta. And my last X factor for this game is going to be Aaron Jones, and we'll have to monitor whether or not he will even play in this Week 7 matchup. but he is truly a difference maker when he is in the lineup versus when he isn't. I think the Vikings had a 1.5-yard rush average fall off when he left the game in their previous matchup. Aaron Jones overall, 71 rushes for 350 yards and a score, but he also heavily contributes to their passing attack. 20 receptions for 167 yards and a score as well. Again, he is questionable for this Week 7 matchup, and I will keep you posted as we get closer to game time. A lot of great matchups and fun players all over this field. It should be an exciting Week 7. The ultimate difference in this game, I believe, will be the Lions' offense remaining clean. Minnesota's defense is predicated on being able to force turnovers. They're currently tied for second with 13 takeaways. They have 11 interceptions and 41 passes defended. We already mentioned their sack rate. They are third in the league with 20 sacks and lead the league with pressures at 84. The Lions' offensive line will truly have to hold up against this Vikings defense. Detroit only has 4 turnovers in 5 games, and the Lions' offensive line have only given up 9 sacks in those 5 games. So something's going to have to give here. But I think the Lions are able to attack you in so many ways that it's going to be the ultimate difference in this game. Can the Vikings make them less dimensional? Maybe. But can you defend all of the dimensions of this Lions offense? Right now, I don't believe that they can. The current play would suggest that this Lions offense will remain clean. Jared Goff has been consistent, has been accurate, has been safe with his throws. Ultimately, if the Lions can limit the turnovers, limit the penalties, I believe they will have enough firepower to win this game against the Vikings. Let me know who you got down in the comments. What a great matchup here for Week 7, Lions-Vikings. Who do you have coming out on top here in this NFC North battle? The line on this game is now currently set at -1.5 for the Vikings and the over-under at 50.5. I think this is a very close matchup. Lions traveling to Minnesota. Going to be a tough atmosphere there. Vikings coming back home from a home game in London. Well, now they get a true home game in Minnesota. Again, the offense has done enough. They've been put in good positions so that the Vikings have been able to get to this undefeated status. The Lions and their offense, everything coming together there against Dallas. Yes, they have the injury to Hutchinson to worry about. Can they do enough defensively to keep themselves in it, where the offense really is the name of the game? And I think that's the true difference here. I have the Lions winning this football game 28-27 in a close battle. That would move the Lions to 5-1 in the top of the NFC North division here early on. And the Vikings would then get their first loss of the season, falling to 5-1 in second place in the North. That's going to do it for our Week 7 game preview, Lions and Vikings. Hit me up down below in the comments. Who do you have coming out on top in this NFC North battle? Make sure to hit that like button. It's the best free way to help out the channel, and I'd love it if you consider subscribing. We're just over 2,100 thanks to you guys. If you hit the notify bell, you won't miss any future videos. There is a membership option available. If you hit the little blue join button on any one of my videos, I'll walk you through how you can become a part of the family. But more than anything else, make sure to take care of yourself and your mental health. That's more important than anything else, and I want to make sure you come back and see me on future videos. Thank you guys so much for your time. Enjoy your weekend. Go Lions.